Welcome to the
Yes.
Japanese thing. This week we're talking about a movie about anime, but not an anime movie, although it has movie anime elements in it, but it's not an anime movie. Welcome to the Japanese thing. My name is Chris. Today with me is Dylan Ish. How you guys doing?
Hello. Going well.
Your anime, my anime.
Your anime, my anime. The anime thing is called anime Haken or anime Supremacy. Is it called in English?
Yeah.
Great.
Supremacy in
That's it.
English, yeah.
Amazing. I'm not entirely sure that Haken translates to supremacy. I thought it means destruction. But I guess maybe that's just what it
Anime
is.
victory?
Anime victory? Not sure.
I don't know. I mean, maybe they try to stay away from like defeatist and victorious kind of terms.
I
don't
guess. Maybe that's just how you say like triumphing over someone else or something in Japanese. I don't know.
Absolute destruction.
Absolutely. Yeah,
Anime.
like yeah, anyway, it's fine. It doesn't matter. Yes, you okay? You're going into winter now. Everything cooled
Yes.
down there.
I will say that last night I had to turn on the fireplace inside the house. I've always found getting fireplaces inside your house a bit weird. Like, I didn't think it was a good idea. But I literally had to resort to either bringing my bed here or just turning on the fireplace.
Yeah.
It recently got cold enough that I had to turn on the fire. And
Good. Good. Oh, good. You
it
have
was-
one.
yes, yeah. It was worth it.
Do you-
I do think that fireplaces are kind of dumb, but I support the idea of its existence, I guess.
It's more of a rural thing than where you are now. But in your neck of the woods, there's a thing called window tape,
Yes,
which is like just a thermal proof tape that in the winter you can seal your windows with to prevent wind getting in. So yeah, it gets pretty cold there.
Wind and stuff isn't getting in, and our windows are double glazed with not a vacuum but argon in between,
Yeah.
so that transmission through the windows is not that significant. But I mean,
No,
at
it's
a
more
point,
for like out in the woods kind of thing, I guess. But yeah.
certainly, I suppose. I'm certainly in suburbia, but temperatures outside had dipped to -3°C, which inside the house meant that our temperature was about 7 or 8 degrees Celsius. And yeah, I felt the need for either getting blankets or just turning on the fire.
Yeah.
Ouch.
That's probably not that low. As a
Suddenly,
thing.
it's
probably
going to
get a
go
lot
far
colder.
lower.
Yeah.
Indeed.
Anyway, yeah, I've been okay. Getting ready to make a trip to the UK for a while, so there might be some interruption with that Japanese thing podcast for a while, but you know that's fine. And Dylan, anything happening in your life?
No, not too much. It was just been house hunting for a different place to rent in a different part of the city.
With less like post-apocalyptic vibes. Not post-apocalyptic.
Yeah,
that's not true. Dystopian vibes.
But nihilistic tendency, I suppose.
Yeah,
Yeah.
people with underlit Suzukis that have been souped up.
I mean, that's what makes it like that's the charm of the area, but that's like the only charm of the area.
Oh gosh. Anyway, so we watched this movie under
Yes.
Dylan's
Yes, we did.
Dylan's orders this week.
Yeah,
And,
it was my input.
Yeah, so maybe Dylan, what is this movie? Tell me about it.
Okay, so the movie follows an up-and-coming director for an anime series, and she's been given like her first like major breakthrough title to actually present, and it's going head-to-head against quite an established director's work. For a similar time slot, but sort of like, you know, the two like one after each other. And this is kind of like the story, like it's a little bit romanticized. I would argue that they blend it well enough that it's not completely disruptive to the story, but it's like a romanticized sort of passion for making anime. It's a story about that. There are a lot of female characters in the story. There is the main protag, Hitomi Saito. She is the director for Soundback, which is the sort of the anime that she's bringing to the table.
Yeah.
It also has it also follows on the Rivals team the anime producer. There's also a lady who has to sort of contend with a diva of a director because he constantly is trying to push the boundaries and force her to try and get things passed by the higher ups that they normally wouldn't pass. And it doesn't really follow, unfortunately, but it does sort of cameo every now and then a female animator. But it's not like heavily gender focused, I would say. There are other characters that are in equal sort of positionings. So it is very sort of like workplace
there's
oriented.
There's a male-female dynamic going on in both separate productions, I would say.
Yeah, it doesn't follow like the worst aspects of that trope. It doesn't try and explore that too
what I'm
much.
saying is
But I'm actually kind of grateful for that.
We've got like a reverse thing going. We've got the one manager who's the woman in the one, and the director who's the guy, and then the opposite in the other production, right?
Correct. And with very different styles.
The directors are both quite different personalities, but the managers kind of have a similar vibe about them, except the female one is maybe having like a mental breakdown in the background quietly.
So I would argue that they've got different sort of ways of producing or different approaches to it. The female tries to really work with her director in terms of what he wants and kind of compromise as they go along, which is what's stressing her out and bringing her to a point of near mental breakdown.
Did also physically just punch him in the face at some point.
I mean, did he not deserve it though? He was
really?
kind of asking.
He went to Hawaii for a week. Yes, I know that.
Listen. This is a Japanese person working effectively.
This is a Japanese person who took time off, time that he was alive.
Who took time off. It is not socially acceptable, Chris. She did, if she didn't hit him, she would have to commit seppuku for the shame.
Yeah.
Like, she had to do her societal duty and chastise him immediately, especially since he didn't actually go to Hawaii.
It's a very Japanese movie. There's no Western influence in it, really.
Absolutely.
So we were made to feel like the director was the bad guy for taking 7 consecutive days of leave.
Can we also just talk for a moment about how well put together the plot is in a certain aspect? Because the character we're talking about, his name in the show is Chiharu Oji. Or Oji Chiharu, I suppose, if you want to be accurate. But he is presented as being a negative force initially. Mostly because we're seeing him through the eyes of these two ladies, his manager and the not producer, is it she?
And Hitomi,
Hitomi,
the director.
But these two people, one is making excuses for him and he's vanished, and the other is competing with him and seeing him as her rival, even though it's also presented that she was like his fan initially. But now she has pushed herself into a position, and literally, she pushes herself. He didn't do anything to her. She's pushed herself into this position where she has declared that she will destroy him, and her anime will take first place.
Exactly.
And
I mean, that is like a very Japanese trope, though. You know, the whole I will not lose.
The thing I wanted to present is, as we get towards the end of the show, it doesn't flag it. It doesn't lampshade it, I think is the phrase I'm supposed to say. But it's revealed that everything he was doing was for his production, and he was actually trying to be helpful to her. He actually presented to her a solution to one of her biggest problems. And he was just being a chill guy, just doing his work. He wasn't a bad guy in any way. Maybe he's a bit of a troll in his attitude, but he was actually being supportive to everyone he could.
That's something that I really liked about the movie is they didn't do the very stereotypical, oh, there's like an antagonist and you're the protagonist. There was like
Absolutely.
rivalry, but at the end of the day, everyone there actually is facing the same challenges and they've got to face the same sort of dilemmas at work, deal with the same kind of bullshit that you'd have to deal with. None of them are sleeping. They're all stressed. They're all trying to get out episodes every week on time. It's a nightmare.
Yeah,
But
no,
yeah.
the tall manager, I don't, whatever his name is, doesn't matter. He has a very good like presence in the movie. He's very intimidating. It would be a nightmare to work for him, I imagine, because he'd be very
It's
good at
because-
hurting people, and making them do what.
I know his name
because
is
he's like-
Yukishiro because it's
Yeah.
snow and white.
Right.
But it's like what he does well is like he's not like a yelling sort of aggressive entity. It's just like matter of fact, dispassionate. No, it will be this way. Someone will argue with him, but it doesn't bounce off. It literally just kind of like gets absorbed into this nothingness, and we're like, no, you're wrong. You will do it this way. And then he walks away. He'll literally just walk away.
Yeah. I mean, it doesn't reflect well on the company that you need like some weird enforcer just to get your job done, rather than maybe like hiring enough people to do it comfortably, I guess. But he seems very good at his job,
Yeah.
at least. Whereas the
Yeah.
presented as
the
hyper-competent.
lady manager seems less suited to her position, if that is just how the company works. She's
I think it's
Much-
presented fairly firmly that
much
she's doing
less-
this as a
yeah.
passion project.
she's much less able to accept that this is like a business and
Mm.
really wants to make art instead, which is
Yeah.
fair, but that's not really what the
I would-
manager is supposed to be about, I guess.
Yeah, I would argue
Same budget,
that
get it done on time.
any other form of manager would be incompatible with Chiharu Oji, the director of the rival team. Like, if you swap the managers' roles, the production on that side would just fall apart because the director would just be like, "No, fuck you, I'm going to Hawaii for real this time." Like,
Right.
it just wouldn't work. And so you have to have these personalities that kind of actually can mix, even if it's in a pseudo painful way. Like you don't envy this the lady manager's position or the lady producer's position, because she's got to constantly deal with this genius child, right, who constantly wants to have things his way done, and then the board of higher ups that they want this guy's name because he was a hit name, but they also want to stick to tradition, and this is not a traditional director, and so she's constantly put between like a rock and a hard place. And there was one point that I feel was very well written, was sort of as it was nearing the end. This isn't a spoiler or anything. Chiharu wants to do something that's not traditionally sort of acceptable, right? And she eventually capitulates, like, because she's going to have to pass this by the higher ups, right? She eventually capitulates, but she basically says to him, "Listen, don't fuck it up. Do this well enough that I can actually fight this fight. Like, I will fight this for you. It's a nightmare, but I will do it. You just make sure that it's good enough that the fight can actually win." And I appreciated that. That was like, okay, cool. We're in it now. We're doing like stuff that normally we wouldn't be doing. This part is complete romance, because as far as I can tell in the anime industry, it doesn't work this way. There's a formula, you stick to it. But in general, maybe. But I thought it was quite entertaining.
Yeah, not at like a big company like this is portrayed to be. I suppose that's not how it usually works. Like the small studios who make their own stuff, I guess maybe this is more or less how it goes. Especially of late, it seems a lot more failure is bleeding into
I
the
mean,
industry.
you kind of wonder. Now, I'm not trying to equate this guy to Miyazaki, but you kind of wonder if Miyazaki wanted a certain thing that a studio was uncomfortable with. I reckon he would have quite a lot of leverage to have his way. right?
Yeah, I mean, I think every time he retires, someone drives a dump truck of money to his lawn and dumps it on the front door. So,
Yeah.
you know,
Praise. Lights a smudge stick and puts it on the
puts it on the
altar.
shrine. Yes,
Please.
think of your ancestors' music.
Please come back.
Oh gosh.
Oh God, we need to watch that movie as well. Anyway, moving on.
But okay, so then there's the anime in these movies. We have Soundback and Fate Front, Little Light.
Little Light, yeah. Lamplight.
I don't know. I'm not sure what the Fate
Little-
Front one was supposed to be a parody of.
So I can
Soundback
tell
was
you
like
that-
Macross, right? That's what they were going for, I think.
Soundback was sorry, what's the name of that show again? The one where there's the little mascot character offering young girls contracts to become magical girls.
Yeah, but
When
it's
they
like
grow
a
up, they become
mecha.
witches.
It's not
Hold on.
Magica.
Magic, but
I
the
think
end
you're
is
just
literally
thinking about
magic.
the other one. Yeah. I think.
maybe
Madoka
Yeah,
Magic,
yeah.
Yeah.
So it literally ends exactly as Magica though.
Gosh, it's not clear enough in my head anymore to distinguish between them.
So-
with the losing of memories.
But
Not only
the
the
two
losing of
girls
memories,
riding on
but-
the motorbike is the Fate Front one, the light.
Straight front one.
Yeah.
But also, they literally had one girl with time power. She had clocks in her eyes, fighting for the memory of her friend who sacrificed herself for everyone. And then they ride off into the sunset together, screaming, "We're gonna do it our way. Screw the universe."
Yeah, and they had some
which-
good voice actors on each of them. We had Rei Takahashi, who's Megumin, and every other female character in anime.
And she was brought in as the idol character.
I didn't really recognize many of them from Soundback. Also from the Little Light one, we had the person from Steins Gate, Kana Hanazawa, and so on and so forth. There were a few, like, I think there was also the guy that plays the skeleton from that Isekai thing. I can't remember the name of it.
Overlord?
Overlord, yeah. Ainzel Gould was there.
Yes, he was.
But yeah. That was fun. I wish there was more like anime stuff in this movie about anime. We got very few like Easter eggs, so to speak. We got like someone mentioned Endless 8. We got some Dragon Ball references.
Endless 8 was in there. Oh, I was so sad when I heard that too. But I do want to say, I did feel like the anime did a very good job of making me feel claustrophobic in the beginning of it.
Yeah. It was
Because
very
everywhere
hard
they
to
went
watch the
was
first half
inside.
hour.
Everywhere they went was inside the anime industry. When the girl got away from the anime industry, she went to a place that sold anime toys.
Yeah.
Figmas were everywhere. And then when they came out, they walked immediately onto a street where anime was being advertised on billboards. And they went into a restaurant that was doing a anime collab. And then they went back to work in the anime industry. Everything was just inside their business.
Anime-themed ramen.
It was completely inescapable. The industry was there haunting you for the first hour.
I mean, it is one of the few like industries in Japan that's still doing quite well. So
Certainly.
I guess
But
it was like
I
that.
think that it was certainly a decision, a choice. That, I think also it's because the first hour focuses a little bit on the animator girl, who we don't see too much later on because she accepts her role and grows effectively. But in the first half, we're focused on this animator girl that's struggling to make her life and her work balance, and she's failing at it really badly.
Yeah.
So there's this very strong feeling of like the anime industry is just a weight on your shoulders, and when you leave, you haven't left. You're still inside the anime industry, and it presses you down.
I just
And then
yeah. I didn't
later
really
on-
understand why that was part of the story. I mean, I think you
think
could have
it-
just taken
I
that
think if-
segment out, and it would still be just as good.
Yeah, you're probably right. I think they were trying to leverage it for later sort of sequences
I think
where
maybe they just-
they're asking,
Yeah. Go on.
yeah, where they ask her to basically pull nothing but all-nighters for a last-minute script change, and it yet again sort of romantically, like it's done like she capitulates to this or doesn't capitulate, but she agrees to it rather,
The reverse
like
was
wholheartedly.
Yeah, she
Yeah, for
joins
the
in
first
on
time, yeah.
purpose. She volunteers.
Exactly, because she kind of recognizes that this is actually sort of meaningful. So but with that said, Chris, I do agree with you. I don't think they would have lost anything if they just
Is
cut
there a chance
that initial setup out.
they thought maybe the lead actress just wasn't pretty enough, and they wanted like a more like traditionally
No.
beautiful
Think so,
actress in the
no.
movie?
I definitely
I
think
don't-
this was intended to give us a Cinderella ending.
Yeah.
It was
And
supposed to be a
yeah.
feel-good moment.
And I don't
Okay.
think it's trying to like really track on good looks or anything too much. Like it's
We
not
don't
like
see
trying to
her
make it.
looking happy or anything too much. I will say that it felt fairly firmly like it was trying to suggest that normies should get in on anime. Like there was a very large boot pushing on, hey, normies should watch anime, they can love it too.
I mean, if
From the
anything,
boyfriend aspect.
if anything, this movie like really convinced me I don't want to work in any regard in any way
Yes.
in the anime industry at all.
In the anime industry at all.
Well, yeah, I mean,
Seems
like,
like
in
hell.
any large-scale Japanese industry is going to be very similar to this kind of vibe, unfortunately.
Yeah, but I mean,
So, Dylan,
specifically, this is like a deadline-oriented industry, right?
Yeah,
Well,
but
yeah,
like very few industries in Japan are not deadline-oriented. You know, engineering-wise will be the same thing. Design-wise will be the same thing.
Yeah, but I mean, like, you know,
If we open up a ramen bar in the countryside, though, hear me out. Like,
well,
pretty
I mean,
good.
those are just shorter, smaller deadlines as they come in the door, right?
we could open up a Shisanyama place.
Yeah,
I'm
that's,
sure that would be popular.
what do you call it? Like,
Especially if we cured and sold our own actual bacon.
that sounds like a lot of work, and I don't want to do that. Also, why bacon?
Compared to this.
That's a weird thing.
No,
But yeah, I mean,
no.
you can
The
make a
reason
lot
why I
of, you
say
can make
that-
a lot of money selling bacon in Japan because they don't have it.
That's it. That's why I say it. Yeah.
Okay.
Dylan, to harken back to a conversation from earlier, she accepts
Yes.
the role, and then Bill Gates steps out of a closet and hands her paycheck. That felt too Cinderella to me. That she suddenly was like,
Yeah.
"No, I'll do it," even though I'm emotionally destroyed, my life is in shatters, and I've already been pulling one-nighters for the previous work. Yes, this time I'm gonna volunteer and make this dream come true.
I
Yeah.
honestly just didn't really understand that plot line at all, so I guess.
I mean, I can see two reasons for that plotline. The first was supposed to give us a feel-good moment towards the end of this movie for why the studio could suddenly handle this impossible task, literally impossible task. And secondly,
Yeah.
it was supposed to give us a normie perspective, because we cut to the boyfriend more than we cut to her, if I'm brutally honest with you. And the normie perspective on these shows and the impact that it had on the kids around said normie guy, because he was in a school for some reason.
well, I think that
was
school
meant
was
to
just
show us
like
the
it was
impact.
like an old school converted to like an anime, like production.
An anime thing, maybe.
Mm.
But Normie-kun and the kids around him, their responses was the reason why she exists in a way. The animator, I mean. Like literally, she existed to give us an audience response, in my opinion.
Yeah,
They tack that onto the character.
Yeah,
Sure.
obviously later on in the movie, she was there just so you could have background characters having a conversation about what was going on in the main plot. I guess. I mean,
Yeah,
it
look,
was
I mean,
useful to have people
I
watching
think-
the videos
I think if
and
they-
telling you what
guys,
they thought about
guys.
things.
It's not fair. It's not fair to complain that movies are too long, and then like when they cut out certain characters' kind of perspectives from the storyline for time, it's going to be one of the things that falls through.
Nobody here has complained about the duration of the movie.
No, I know. I'm just
I think
trying to
it could be
explain that
shorter.
it.
I think you could take half an hour off this. There's a lot of like
I'm just
lingering shots that don't need to be there, I think.
Yeah, I'm
Although
just trying to explain.
Yeah,
Yeah.
go ahead.
Yeah.
Oh no, don't worry, it's fine. We can move on.
He
from
was
the point.
saying that
It's not a major one.
this movie would have been longer if they fleshed out her point, basically, her
Yeah.
perspective.
Yeah.
100%.
So
no,
they
exactly.
cut it so that we wouldn't have to deal with
I
it.
mean, why not get rid of all of it though? that would be
I
the
mean, like,
logical
then-
thing to do. I'd rather have it be a 3-hour movie with the proper
She's
story
our
in it.
Watson.
Oh,
Or at least she's our
But,
key to our Watson. We need her for the audience responses and stuff.
Yeah,
No, you
and then also there'd be look, and I think you can probably criticize the film for doing a little bit of this anyway, but they need to show sort of the animators side of it. It like even if it is only sort of 10 minutes worth of scenes, they need to show some animators working on the anime. Otherwise, it'll be like this is just the directors and the producers. What is going on?
Yeah.
And I don't think that they did it in such a way that it disrupted the other story elements, so I don't mind that it's in there.
There was also a lot of romanticizing about the way like production takes place. I think there was
Yes.
people sticking storyboards to like desks and lots of nonsense going on.
Well, yeah. So now this is the thing. Like, I don't like, and I mean, there's a whole sort of aspect of this that we're going to chat about now, I suppose, because Yesh and I were chatting about this beforehand as well. I'm not an expert in things. So I don't really understand how they would do productions like this in Japan. I know in a Western sense, everything is digital nowadays. Very little is done on paper and at desks. But I also know that Japan is very traditional. So there's a chance, I don't know how big, that they would be doing exactly what you see in the movie, right?
So
there is also a chance that was just kept in for like sort of a romantic, nostalgic feel to it, which
I
is
think that's
exactly what
more
you're
like,
describing.
I mean, so we've
Yeah.
seen Kadokawa's production buildings a few times because they've done tours via like anime YouTubers and things, and it is mostly just computers and the floors of them doing this work.
Generating lots of heat.
I'm sure people do draw things by hand, but probably mostly digitally by hand.
Probably
right?
not, and
Like
probably
on their
not
iPads
to
and
yeah,
things.
and probably not to the extent that the show is kind of sort of illustrating.
Yeah.
The one thing that I would like to bring in is that there are differences that are real, that like I can't really wrap my mind around, but I know that it happens this way. So like Western productions, typically speaking, you will film the entire thing and then you will release the episode, serially every week or whatever, right? But by the time you release the first episode, the whole thing is done, right? It's not like anyone is like racing.
Not actually, no.
No?
It will depend entirely
Sure.
on the company, but most of the big studios that have evolved from TV places are often still working on the later episodes as the first one is.
Episodic, like serially. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
At least in
But
editing.
There is a big buffer though, Chris. You do agree on that, right? Like they'll
Well, it
have
depends how
about
long
a
the series is,
6-episode
right? I mean,
but there'll be like a 6-episode lead or something like that. That's what I've heard with the Marvel shows, at least.
yeah, for animation, I generally believe they almost always have finished everything by the time it is.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Okay. So let's just take that as a standard for now to go with, because I suppose we can find exceptions to the rule often. In anime, it happens quite regularly like this, where they're gonna work on and release things week by week, and it is one of the reasons why we've come across so many production issues recently in so many different series that we've spoken about already, right? They'll be like halfway through, Isekai Oji-san or whatever, and there is an issue, whether it's COVID or whether it's like employees walking out because they're treated like serfs or whatever the case might be. It is sort of a week by week thing, and so your deadline is literally, there is a hard deadline every week, and I cannot like I can't imagine trying to finish an entire episode in like 1 week. Sorry.
No, that's not. They're not finishing an episode in a week, right? That's not what's happening.
Okay.
So
Okay.
It's not like there's no episode at the beginning of the week and there's episode at the end of the week, right? Making anime is like a 3-year process. But what I think happens, and this movie kind of illustrates well, is that like a Western production, generally speaking, people plan out everything and then stick to the plan, because all of the conflict happens up front, right? Between the creative powers. Because Japanese culture is more like collaborative and communal, a lot of that conflict happens along the way. So you get a lot more movable parts towards the back end of the production. We saw it with how they both wanted to change their endings, right?
Mm-hmm.
That is something that could literally happen
Sure.
in the Japanese production, which it wouldn't happen in the Western production.
But in terms of like, so then what part of the process specifically gets disrupted in the series that we've noticed that do get disrupted? If they're
the
if
voice
they're
acting
like
might
3
not be
years
done,
already,
the actual animation might not be finished completely. The CG might not be as it.
oh
as you
yeah,
want it to
sure.
be
I mean
done.
like
The
I
editing
mean
might not be
like
complete.
there are like storyboards.
They might need to
set
redo
up
a
for
scene
everything, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
because they've detected a minor flaw and someone's had a panic attack about it. That's
Okay,
that's
but
the
like
kind of
you
thing
don't
that's been
have a
done.
fully. But the point is like, you know, a year and a half ago you didn't have a fully animated episode
Right.
that now suddenly you're like.
But
you're like you've got all your pre-planning is done, is what you're saying. Like all your prior work, all that's really required is animating it, like getting the sound and the score ready, and then putting in like the editing work, which is still
Editing work.
enough amount of work
Yeah,
in my mind
yes.
to be able to achieve in a week.
Right.
That's entirely true.
But yeah, I mean, what's actually happened with some of the things we've talked about are relatively minor things that have stopped them coming out. Like not having the subtitle tracks ready.
Oh,
And
okay.
normally, like, that's, like, we were both watching Lower Decks, right? Yes, you and me.
Mm-hmm.
Those productions were done 6 months before the show actually airs.
Airing in any way.
And so
yeah.
people had a lot of time to get everything in order for it to be released. So everything's done well ahead of time. And what they do up until the line in a Western show is work on the actual animation and make it look polished and finish the editing, right? But the script stays the same. So
Yeah.
the person
I'm
making
not
the
saying
subtitles
that this. Yeah,
In a
I'm
Western
not saying
show,
that the
just-
script is made every week.
just has to position the things in the right order, and then you've got your subtitle file, and it can be uploaded and comply with local laws. In the Japanese production, they may be changing the voice lines right up until like a couple of weeks beforehand.
Sure.
And then there just wasn't enough time, say in Zom 100, for the person to literally type the new script, send it to the person to do the subtitles. Probably the only one guy doing it for 10 anime, right? A season or something. And then they needed to drive to the studio with that file for some reason, because apparently you can't email it to them. So those are the kind of nonsense things that happen in Japanese productions, I believe. It's like small things. It's not necessarily like they're doing much in the way of finishing animation and that sort of stuff. It's
Okay.
changing
So
relatively
we're
minor things.
saying they're not actually okay. So then that's an aspect of this that is not realistic, is what you're saying.
Yeah, I don't think changing the whole ending of either of these things is.
No, I'm not talking about the twist at the end. I'm
Yeah.
talking about because they're animating week to week in the movie, as far as I was able to pick up, right?
Well, I didn't really interpret it that way. I think they're trying to
Okay.
create nonsense tension about that. They certainly would be doing that sort of thing, right?
Touch-ups
Finishing
and
the job,
improving
right?
shadows and stuff.
Exactly, yeah.
Mm.
Changing. They show that galactic kind of thing, right, with the lighting and choosing the lights and stuff. That they would be doing that.
Yeah,
that's
sure.
for sure true. For example, like Zom 100, the intro only has stuff from the first episode, because only the first episode was finished when it aired. So that's all they had to work with for the intro. So some of it could be true. I don't think it's typically true, at least not of a major production. Most of the failure kind of things we're talking about are done by minor companies or by big companies who have leased it out to minor companies. Like Oji-san was Sega, releasing it to a bunch of minor studios. So I guess that's why that happened. But if Kadokawa with its in-house studios and the ones it trusts were to make a production, that's probably not exactly how it would go. One would hope anyway. Actually, from what I hear, the like making anime for like Konosuba, for example, like the recent one that came out, the Megumin one, that was about a 2-year process, and only about 9 months of that is really what the director and the manager would have to really be involved with. A lot of that is just a planning phase. So it takes them about 9 months to actually animate a thing. They're not doing it week to week.
Okay, so they're only doing changes week to week, essentially, or polishing, as you say.
Ideally, I guess they would have finished it all already by the time the first anime episode airs. But no, that's I think less and less is that probably true, right? Because with like digital technology, being the way it is, you can just make changes more easily than you used to be able to. For longer anime, even before digital stuff was a thing in Japan, Dragon Ball was animated almost week to week, and they had like an entire department just dedicated to making filler episodes of Dragon Ball, so that the people working on the main story would have time to actually draw and animate the main storyline. But they had huge amounts of people doing it, not just 30 or 40. Like the floors and floors of people at the production companies just working on this. Same for Super.
I wonder it'd be interesting to find out where the bottlenecks in that would lie. Like, for example, like your voice actors, it's only like one person that can really do the one role, right?
Well, it's
so
actually
do you lock this human in a room for like 24 hours a day, like for 3 months,
So-
feeding them hot dogs through a window? Like, how does this
the
work?
bottleneck is directors, apparently, right? So
Okay.
that's whenever there was a real problem with releases for Dragon Ball, there was usually like a director got sick or something and they couldn't do a thing. But
And I mean, Japanese sick is not the same as like our sick, right? In terms of work.
no, like hospitalized,
when you
right?
actually take it.
You know?
Yeah. You're
Like he lost a
you're
hand, and so that took him off the project for a week.
Your cortisol levels are at such a high point that your kidneys are starting to shut down.
Yeah, exactly.
He'll be back in 12 hours, don't worry.
Woof.
For Super, there's some notorious images of really badly animated, like Goku, you see in a few episodes. And that was just because there weren't enough people working on the project. So they took it quite seriously, and they just tripled the staff, literally. And thereafter, the problem stopped. So they had enough lead time and enough time to redraw things that were bad. Because it was essentially the same director and the same people doing it. They were just like, well, it's just gonna have to do, I guess. I know he looks like a weird children's drawing now, but we don't have time. This is coming out in 2 days.
What did you guys think of the characters themselves in the movie?
I don't know. None of them really had much in the way of personality, to be honest. They were
I think they were pretty well written.
Perhaps. I think the writing and the direction of the movie was pretty good.
Yeah.
But
I think
there was
the
nothing
writing and the
over the
directing-
top about it.
The story was well done, but I think the characters were sacrificed for the story at least twice. Apart from that, I thought they were well written.
Yeah, I would agree that they don't have too much depth to them, but I don't think that's kind of the point. And I think they've done well for being characters that aren't supposed to be too deep. They're supposed to kind of be where they are in their life, dealing with what they're dealing with in their life at that point. There's a little bit more depth to the protag because she's got to have like sort of backstory as to why she's putting herself to this and the rest. And that for me is like very. It's okay. It's very
if it was a Western
standard,
movie,
it's like tropey. It's like tropey.
If
Yeah.
it was a Western movie, there would be more cinematic flashbacks than what we got.
Yes, sure.
There wasn't too much in the way of like art director, like artful cinematography, really, and there was a very subdued emotion. We didn't see breakdowns really. There wasn't much shouting. I mean, there was some, obviously.
We did see some like internal struggle breakdown when, especially when the primary producer found the guys talking badly about her behind her back.
The director, yeah.
Director, sorry.
But I mean, even that, she didn't confront them, right? She just kind of like
she had a
rolled up
breakdown in
and went away.
She had a breakdown in the downstairs place where she started screaming at them.
Even but much later, right? And then
Much
that
later,
was
yeah.
sort of counteracted immediately by her fainting. So I guess that was the most dramatic part of it. Even at the end, when she realizes she's kind of accomplished what she wanted to do, we just see her kind of lean over and have like emotions while not watching her face, right?
Mm-hmm.
Look, I
Which
mean,
is so
you're
Japanese,
saying,
but it's a little disappointing, I think.
You're saying this, and yet, as I was watching this, I was thinking to myself, like, man, these are really animated people for being Japanese professionals. You know, like in a professional setting, I would have imagined like stony faces the whole time, but that is kind of a stereotype, and I think that there is sort of mid-ground there.
I mean, she did sort of, Mr. Spock make the one voice actor girl cry in that one scene, just by her lack of empathy. So I'm not entirely sure you're right about that. But part of her journey was learning how to be more of a human, I think.
Human being, yeah. I will say that I got 2 points of catharsis from this movie if we're talking about emotional build-up. When the manager punched the autistic guy, that was incredibly like a giant release of emotions. Because up to that point, she had a continual build-up of like the board of directors calling her incompetent and like saying this entire thing's a failure and how is she going to manage it. And she's like risking her own job and her future career to make it like just keep floating. And then as soon as she sees him, she just fucking decks him. And I love it.
And I love, and it was so funny because they like look like they're gonna hug, right? Like they're like running, and there's like this like moment, and the guy opens his arms for this big hug, and she just gives him a right straight. It's great.
Decks him. It's incredible.
I think it might have been the first bit of levity in the movie, actually. That's
But also we get this second moment that I think is also kind of vital, but much more slow release. It's not like the pressure's been taken off and now steam is everywhere. It's much slow release is just how I'm going to say it. There's a better way to say it. I can't think of the word. But we get this bit where the director Oji's advice comes back to the character that we are following, and she goes and she checks the Instagram of the voice actress that she made cry. And she can see that this voice actress has submersed herself into this project. She has gone to the physical locations that many of the places are drawn on. She's talking about how the character would think and feel in these locations, etc., etc. And then this magically opens her doors and allows her to communicate. And we had this scene at the beginning where she was running into dead ends every time she tried to get something done. And in the second half, after she opens herself up from this voice actress, we can see that she's learning how to communicate by literally speaking the language of the person she's talking to, rather than trying to beat them in the face with what she wants. And that was also kind of like, it's not a direct emotional thing, but she's showing emotion on her face while she's doing all of these things.
Yeah.
And I do think that was pretty open for how she was presented initially, at least.
Yeah, it was pretty good. And they also do a good job of showing like sort of a compromise in communication. Like the whole like color thing, right? Like she doesn't know what color it is because she doesn't know all the names of the colors, and this person is almost the person she's talking to is kind of autistic in that they need the specific thing or else they will not function. And you know, she holds like some cellophane above a lamp, and the person's like, it's that color. She like names it.
Sulfur yellow.
So they do like a good job of like showing how that character kind of bridges those gaps.
Mm-hmm.
I do want to like they've got like they don't go heavily into it, but there is sort of the sort of symbolism in it, in that the whole eclair thing for that director. She doesn't get any eclairs, and then eventually her producer gives her eclairs, and it happens in the movie just before she kind of makes amends with the main voice actress.
Okay.
He gives her the eclairs, right? But she opens them and she's like, "There's none of them are chocolate," right? So she gets acknowledged. She gets what she wants, but it's not quite what she wants. It's slightly different, and she kind of has to accept that it's okay. And it kind of works out when she starts to vibe more with her team, where they're all gonna have their own takes. It's like whatever's in your head. Sure, you've got the creative direction. You're not gonna get the artistic output to be 100% what's in your head. You've got to give a little bit of freedom to other people's inputs into your project, and then it slowly starts drifting away from 100% your project, and then it does actually become a team collaboration. Everyone has sort of input into the production of the art. And once that happens, once that clicks for her, that's when she really starts to pick up slack. That's when the series starts to get better. That's the sort of narrative beat to it. That's when they all gain traction.
On a different note, do you think that this sort of power structure is actually the reality of the situation? Because I can't imagine.
I don't know.
This working.
I don't imagine what.
The way they really treat their directors as trash in this company. You feel like you would get at least some benefits from being in charge of a project, right? I mean, they seem to have no aides or assistants to do anything.
I think there's one aspect to the story is that she's quite young and this is her debut. She's not viewed as being experienced in the thing.
Yeah.
So Chiharu also kind of stresses out his team, right? The opposing director. But he's viewed as he's already brought a hit title out. He's sort of he's a bit rebellious in that he kind of quit and then went freelance and then left for 8 years and then only came back. But he's still viewed as having experience. And I know in Japanese workplace sort of culture, you've got to treat people that have been there longer for you with a little more deference.
I get that, right, but she's still been there for a while, and she is a boss, right? And in Japanese hierarchical culture,
you would think,
people get treated better the older and more senior they are.
Yeah.
And
this is her
this company's
first
really
time.
Treating her like an intern that they can abuse.
Yeah.
So
that is part of the. I mean, in certain groups that I'd be in, they call it the plastic of it. The sort of make believe of it is that she's even doing this kind of level of a project as a debut sort of director.
yeah.
So it is suggested that they pushed her up faster than she should have, because that's part of the commentary around the character.
Well, yeah, it's.
But also,
I get that.
Satoru Yukishiro, the manager.
Yeah.
Pushed
The
her
manager
into that
pushed her.
role, right?
He basically forced her into that role, and then he's forcing her into all of the stuff that's necessary to make it run, the advertising and everything.
I mean, the one thing I really liked in the movie was the final post-credits scene, where it kind of turns out the entire plot of this is just him and another manager having a little beef, right? To see who can get the number one slot.
Yeah, rival. Yeah. I mean, I don't think that the opposing team's manager, that lady, was taking it that seriously as that thing. But I think his was just definitely I make numbers go up. That is what I do. I make sales, and in the end, I won.
I do want to
He's a
say
good
that the
avatar
pressure
of
was
capitalism.
also there in the other team,
Yeah.
but the manager for the other team was absorbing it all. So she didn't have to do all of the promotions with Chihiro like our MC did in this one, but she did have to go in front of the board and get crucified every week. We literally saw her getting shouted at and destroyed twice.
But also notice
I
whenever they're in the boardroom together, she's directly in front of them, and he's always to the side. Like he's
Because she's tanking it for him.
exactly. I
She-
mean,
she's
or he
preventing
just
him
knows how to
from
stay
having
out the
to
way.
step. Yes,
Yeah.
well, you could say that, but I think genuinely she decided she wanted his project to come through, his artistic vision to come through. So she stood there in the line of fire on purpose.
Yeah.
No, I'm not talking about the director. I'm talking about the two producers.
Oh, you're
Suppose,
talking
yeah,
about them. Mm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, he's talking about the.
The manager, yeah, the
Yeah.
one manager.
But yeah, I don't know. I don't know if I liked it really. It was a bit slow, and I kind of thought I was getting into a very different film when we started this, but I don't regret watching it. It was interesting at least.
Mm.
Um,
I personally quite enjoyed this movie. I don't think it was a great movie, but I do think it was a good movie.
yeah, I give it a 6
Showed
out
me
of 10.
some aspects of things.
Something around there.
I
Would
enjoyed it as
not
well.
go to a theater and watch this for sure. I think that
I
would just
mean,
be...
there are very few movies that I would go to a theater to watch,
Or-
but
That's true.
that doesn't say much. But
well, like let's say
for
like
me, at
even
least-
if it was still like 2010 and going to a theater was a big thing to do,
yeah,
I don't think I
Yeah.
would. Unless it was with a group
yeah,
of people
I-
who
yeah.
like really wanted to watch like weird anime related things.
Literally what our podcast is about.
Yeah.
yeah.
Or
I mean, you would watch this movie if we were all in the same country, sitting down on a couch, though.
For
Certainly,
sure.
certainly,
If
I would.
Yeah,
I
yeah,
needed
yeah.
something to talk about with my friends at a coffee shop
Mainly-
after the movie, this is great.
Hmm.
On the
Yeah,
other
so yeah,
hand,
I mean, that's also its own value.
we're gonna talk about what's it called? Love is Hard for Otakus, the live action movie, at some point. And that is actually probably like 1,000 times better in terms of an otaku movie
Oh.
than this would be.
So,
So-
I mean, I'm not that heavy of an otaku, so I'm not sure if I'm going to be all that positive about it, but okay.
Well, you're
We'll
a
see
certain
how
type of otaku,
we'll
then
see how it pans out. Yeah.
you maybe
I
not
think
the
you need
most
more heavy
anime
object in
related.
your life, Chris.
Oh
No,
gosh, yes.
go away, Yesh. I vote for the chair.
Well, the chair from the
Jesus.
James Bond movie, right? That's what we're talking about.
Certainly.
Something.
Yeah.
Oh
Chair
yeah.
with no bottom.
No. Yeah, I wasn't thinking that chair. Jesus,
Oh.
Chris
You-
went full nuclear there.
I don't know. The chair that you're talking about involves bad things too.
yeah. But I mean, you don't suffer as much.
Uh-huh.
Fair enough.
Anyway,
Anyway.
that'll do it for the Japanese thing this week. Thanks for listening to us, guys. Ciao for now.
Cheers.
Bye.
I don't begrudge it, at least.